Everybody watching this video, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I go by the name of Olivim Sani, but most of you who will be watching this video and knows me as Nyogilo, and that is the main reason for the video of today. So today I'm here to share with you my campus political journey. So I joined Technical University of Mombasa in the year of 2018, as at that time there were so many activities going on. But before I continue with this story, let me take a moment to send my condolences to the family of Oliver Njoki, who we had lost yesterday as at the time of shooting this video. Oliver Njoki was a jovial and a happy lady. She was one of my delegates when I was vying for the Dawa Alliance, and we wish her family blessings and happiness, as even if they are going through this period, and may her soul rest in peace. So in the year 2018, after joining Technical University of Mombasa, I met a high political temperature going on already. Now, okay, so in Technical University of Mombasa, mostly politics are divided in community-based politics. So each and every community brings a candidate, and for them to bring a candidate, they have to do an endorsement for you to be accepted as a candidate. So as at that time, there was a big rival between Dennis Okanga and Nyang Polo, coming from the same community. This rivalry went all through until one of them decided to go on their own, and there were two alliances, that of Dennis Okanga and that of Nyang Polo, from the same community. So I was supporting the alliance of Dennis Okanga, which I was actively part of the campaign team. So I was actively involved in the R8 campaign that of Dennis Okanga, until that government won. And when it won, one of the people who were vying in that alliance was Jacqueline Sotiato, who went for this position of Sports and Entertainment Secretary. So by the time he was going in as the Sports and Entertainment Secretary, and because of my contributions to him as the person who was vying, and to my contribution as the groundsman and campaigner of the R8 Alliance, they took me in as the personal assistant to Jacqueline Sotiato. And in addition to, I was nominated to the parliament of the Technical University of Mombasa Student Association as the entertainment coordinator. In the R8 government, we did a lot of activities like introduction of Mrs. Freshers, we did departmental leagues, we did Mr. and Mrs. Toom, we did cultural week, we introduced several activities that were not existing in that position, and made that position so powerful that each and everyone after that government wanted to be part of the sports and entertainment docket. So because of the contribution and the work that we did, comrades decided that Jacqueline Sotiato cannot only be Sports and Entertainment Secretary and leave it at that point. Okay, so they decided that in the next election, Otiato should vie, and because I was the personal assistant, and I also was part of the next journey of Jacqueline Sotiato, vying again for now the position of president. Okay, so for the position of the president, we were again in form of alliances. One, there was a person called Harry Sululu. Harry Sululu was the academic secretary, part of that government of R8, where Dennis Okanga was the president. And now there was Jacqueline Sotiato, who was the sports and entertainment secretary, part of the R8 government. So the same people in the same government vying for president. Of course, there were rivalry in between. And so there was a division in the R8 government, and those who were supporting Jacqueline Sotiato went this way, and those who were supporting Harry Sululu went the other way. So that is where we came up with the Impact Alliance, where Jacqueline Sotiato was to vie for the position of president with other 7 individuals who were vying for various positions. In between Impact Alliance, I was the strategist, I was the PA to the Sports and Entertainment Secretary, I was a member of the table who are planning each and every political activities, including the launching. I was the PA to the president, also an active entertainment coordinator. So we were working as the campaigns were also going on. So because of our good strategies and our planning, we managed to win the elections, and Impact Alliance became the government. And of course, because I was the PA to that, to the Sports and Entertainment Secretary, who later became the president, I also was absorbed again in the government. Now I was the PA to the president, and I was also the sports coordinator under Impact government. Okay, so from this point is where now my story begins, because Otiato's time is up. He has done his best as the president, and people feel that Otiato should now give us another person who can do well as he does. But because in Otiato circles, there was me, who was the PA to the president, entertainment and sports coordinator in both his governments, that of R8 and Impact Alliance, I was one of his favorites, to be honest. Again, there was someone called Crispin Olo Okil. There was someone called Hezron Olila. Okil and Olila was part of a group called True Boys. So these True Boys, they forwarded the names of Okil and Olila. As for President Otiato, he forwarded my name. And of course, being that I was forwarded by the president, I had the bigger advantage from compared to others. So it was really a struggle because of the incumbency, and of course our Impact Alliance government, we did bad and we did okay. So on the bad side, as the PA of the president, I was the one absorbing each and every bad side, because I'm the one now being fronted to vie as the president of Technical University of Mombasa after Impact Alliance. So we introduced ourselves in the ground. I ran the biggest campaign in the year 2021-2022. I was the biggest political candidate, and I was the best for the position of president in that time. At that time, no one could compare my Tsunami and any other candidate. But back then, I was named Tsunami because of the large amount of crowd that I could pull in my rallies, and I was the only candidate who could pull any crowd to a rally. And because of the pressure that these people were having, they said that I'm too young to become a president. So I don't know if it was a political strategy from the True Boys, or how they managed to convince Otiato that I was too young to be the president. I should just follow his journey, as he had started from sports to the position of president. That one is something that they will have to say. So eventually I considered, I agreed with the True Boys and Jacqueline Sotiato that I could start from sports and entertainment secretary. Later, in which we will go to the position of president, as he had done before, and it worked. So once it worked, I had no choice. I have to follow the same journey. Okay, so the person who was to go for the president was Crispin Olo Okil. But fortunately or unfortunately, Okil couldn't make it to the ballot. Now, I still have another chance here to be the president, because now we were two from the same Impact government that we were supposed to go for the position of president, but now the one of us hasn't made it, and Olila was to go for the position of speaker. True Boys went back again to the table, and they said, you see, as we had agreed that True Boys would produce the president, and Nyogilo was to go for the position of sports. There's no way, now we have already agreed that he's for sports, he goes to the president and we look for another candidate for sports. Let us just stick with Nyogilo at the sports, so that next year he goes for president, and we look for another person. We look for another person to replace Okil. And Okil, since there is the one who was in the position of the president, should suggest who is going to be the president. That really hurt me, by the way, because in that period I was to be the president of Technical. There's no odds that I could lose that election if I was to be trusted to be part of the president of that alliance. So disagreement, agreement, and everything, we decided to go with Hezron Olila, who was initially willing and agreed to go for the position of speaker. Okay, so Hezron Olila was fronted up. Hezron Olila had no poster, had nothing, but because I had already built a name for myself, so my wave could easily carry him up to the position of the president. Whenever people could see where Nyogilo is or where Tsunami is, they could follow that direction. And Olila was later became also a stronghold, and he became a good candidate for the position. So that is how we formed the Liberal Alliance, the first ever alliance that I have gone to the ballot with. And a lot of things happened during the elections of Liberal Alliance. Unfortunately, we were left with 3 difference of delegates. And one of the delegates is the current deputy president of Technical University of Mombasa, that is Tabitha Njeri, and 2 other ladies who I can't remember very well. So these delegates, and because, as I had told you earlier, there was a big rivalry between Otiato, the Impact Alliance, and the group of Harry Solulu, which were part of the Arate Alliance. So, unluckily, those who were supporting Harry Solulu during Impact were the same people who were supporting the rivalry alliance that was going against us. And these delegates, they were part of the third alliance that is called TDA, the Democratic Alliance, something like that, was headed by also a Luo called Steve Tembe. So Steve Tembe had 3 delegates. He only got these 3 delegates. Now these delegates, if he gives them to any alliance, whether it is liberal or that of Nicodemus Nzioko, one of us could win. So it's either Olila or Nzioko to receive these 3 delegates. It was a big hassle. Otiato was even willing to sell his car, but big shout out to the Otiato Mazi. Otiato really tried for the Liberal Alliance. So these 3 delegates, unfortunately, were sold to the Nzioko camp, and that's how Nzioko became the president after Otiato, and the Liberal Alliance, which I was part of, died a natural death. So that's obviously I'm out of the government. There's nothing I can do. I'm just a common comrade. Of course, I'm also almost graduating because I was doing a diploma. I graduated and came back again. So by the time I was coming back, I found Nzioko. Becoming the East government was also ending. So we decided, because we are politicians and we cannot leave politics, and me and Otiato, we are very good strategists, we were being looked for by several candidates. Okay, so several candidates were looking for us to try form something, and because from the team of Tsunami, that is the new wave movement that built Nyogilo, I felt that we had several candidates that could also help us win this election, because I didn't want to go just directly. I needed to form a government where this government would later support me in case I would want to come back to the elections. So that is where we fronted Sudden Castro. Sudden Castro was my personal assistant from the Tsunami movement, and he was part of the strategies in that team that I had built together with Milton Kazi. And so my candidates were Milton Kazi and Sudden Castro. Okay, and Otiato supported me, and we decided to form an alliance with these 2 individuals, Sudden Castro and Milton Kazi. And because of another candidate who was in parliament, he was called Samson. Samson was also a Luo, a very strong Luo compared to our candidate, and we decided to bring the 3 together to form a movement called SMS, Samson, Milton Kazi, and Sudden Castro. We decided we wanted to try in a way that we could take the 3 of them to the ballot, so that at least when my time is right to vie again for the position of the president, I will have support from these 3 individuals. So unfortunately, Milton Kazi could not make it to the ballot, and so we remained with the 2 candidates, that is Samson and Sudden Castro. So these are the people we went with to the Invisible Alliance. Invisible Alliance, where Sudden Castro, my guy, was to be the president, and Samson was to be the academic secretary. We decided to include the Kamba community, that of Eric Muli and others, Carol Kamusi, and those that I can remember. who were part of the Invisible Alliance. Invisible Alliance was to go against Calvin Songa. Yo, that one is the funniest elections ever. We don't know how Calvin Songa won, because it was a very crazy election. It was an online election. Everyone was ignoring Songa. But this guy came in between the three alliances. He was the third alliance. So we assumed, because you remember TDA, which sold the three candidates to Nzioko, Songa could easily give another three candidates, and we see if we can try to bargain for the delegates. But we got 0 delegates, 1 unopposed, and Songa got almost 26 delegates. And this is how Songa became the president of Technical University of Mombasa, kicking the future of Luos in the government out, and of course Kambas also. So it was just a group of lawyers and Kisis and Songa being the president. That one was one of the craziest government I've ever seen. But Songa did his best. He tried a lot of controversies. So Luos are outside the government. I'm a Luo also. Kasatum is outside the government. What will we do? We try again next year, okay? And because I'm a politician, we went back again to the ballot, but not me again. I still decided, let me remain on the table. So the next year, I still felt Milton Kazi and Saden Castro still have a chance. I called Otiato, he agreed. We decided to form something with the two. So we tried to form another alliance, Infinite Alliance, with the Saden Castro, Milton Kazi. But again, unfortunately, my brother Milton Kazi couldn't make it to the ballot. So I remained with one candidate, Saden Castro. But a Luo cannot go alone if he wants the general support of the community. Remember, I'm trying to mention tribes because, as I had mentioned earlier, campus or Technical University of Mombasa politics is largely based on tribal politics or community-based politics, where different communities bring out candidates, and out of this, they become endorsed and they form an alliance. So for us, I don't feel to be biased, but for us, we didn't really focus on the endorsement of Kasatum because we knew the candidate we always target or we always go for are the strongest candidates. And in one way or the other, we always see on how we can meander in between the endorsement, so that those of us who we are planning with are the one being endorsed. And in all these elections, all our candidates were a product of Kasatum endorsement based on strategies, planning, and even their own ground. So I remained, I and Otiato remained with one candidate, that is Saden Castro. So we didn't know what we could do. We felt that Saden Castro could try again. So I observed Chili Chris. Chili Chris was a very strong candidate. Chili Chris was one big candidate in Kasatum. At the end of Impact, I left for him the sports coordinator because I was graduating. I decided to leave for him to finish up the term. He was blogging for Impact Government. Predictably, he was supposed to work with Beast. Now, Beast was part of the R8 government. You remember in 2018, I told you there was a government in R8, that was Dennis Okanga. I and Beast were in the same government, and during the elections, I was given the management science department to manage in 2018. Now, Beast was vying in the department, and I was supposed to campaign for Beast so that he wins. So we had Beast, Makaungila, and everyone in 2018 vying in that time. So we again meet Beast in vying against Saden Castro, Chile, and now there are three. For us, we have Beast. After 2018, in between, we were just good friends, but there was no that bond that could bring him to the table so that we can plan something. So we decided, we talked to Saden. Saden consented, and he agreed he will go for the position of the sports and the entertainment secretary, and Beast could go for the president. But I don't know how it happened. A night to the signing of the alliance, Beast disappeared. Beast, you disappeared. So Beast disappeared, left us with a whole alliance with no president. And because we are just, tomorrow there is a submission of nominations, okay? We don't have a president. Beast had disappeared. Later we realized Beast was playing us all through. And I felt it. I felt it because this was a person who we worked with only in 2018, and all through this politics. He has been in the politics, but he has never we have never been on the same camp yet. So we had a choice to pull back Saden Castro to the top, but because Saden Castro relaxed, since he was to be the sports and entertainment secretary, his ground also reduced. And that of Chile and Beast was on an equal end. Beast was also, I don't know, I'm speaking for him, maybe he can correct me on the comment section. Beast also had a plan to work with Chile Chris, but Chile Chris was adamant he either get president or president. I called Onyango Huru, who is now the current chairman. By the way, you removed me from Kasatuma. That's another story of the day. I called Onyango Huru for a meeting because I knew he was the one working with Chile Chris. So I called Onyango Huru. He agreed to come for a meeting, and I decided to tell him that, you know, you guys are struggling for presidency, but I can easily give you this presidency as long as you take number 2 as Saden Castro. He said he's going to talk to Chile Chris, then agree. Kumbe, or I didn't know, but they were still talking with the Beast to see if they can agree. Now, on the night that they fully disagreed and they said that there's no way we are going to accept Beast as the president, they called us themselves. We agreed and decided to settle on Chile Chris as the president of the Infinite Alliance. Beast remained alone, as he had left us alone, but he realized there was a pending candidate from Migori County called Agwanda. And that's how Agwanda formed an alliance with Beast, and Chile Chris formed an alliance with Saden Castro. But because we felt that that strength is still, there's something still missing, we decided to include Wodnyaboro, aka Rafael Odete. We decided to introduce him as the third candidate. We always have this strategy of 3 roles in alliance, and we always believe that it's something that can easily work and can easily improve the ground, because once you have a bigger support of Kasatu in Technical University of Mombasa, your chances of winning this election is so close. Okay, so I don't know what happened. Now Infinite Alliance decides to leave delegates. Now delegates, these are comrades, a selected group of comrades from specific departments representing these departments, where comrades vote for them and they vote for the alliance. I don't know what happened, but they decided to lock the comrades in the cottage, and that the alliance of Beast decided to release the delegates to the ground to campaign. Now you can imagine, some delegates are on the ground campaigning and convincing people to vote for them, and there are other delegates who are somewhere in a cottage, maybe dancing or enjoying themselves, and believing that they're making calls for people to vote for them. So that was an obvious loss, of course, to the Infinite Alliance. We had strong candidates. There's no way you could beat Chile on a ground politics, but there was just some little mistakes that they did at the end of the politics that costed them the election, and that is how Elvis Owino, aka Beast, became the president of Technical University of Mombasa. There's no way I'm still going to struggle for another alliance for the third time. I'm going to be part of now the alliance, and that's how I decided to vie again for the position of the president and under Dawa Alliance, determined alliance for worthy action. Dawa Alliance. So this is how the story began. So we have done with the Infinite Alliance. Beast Niua Mengia, the government is almost ending. We don't have a candidate on our end because remember, Chile has tried it twice. Saden Castro has tried it twice. Milton Kazi has left. We are now left to, we are on a table. We have a powerful table, the most powerful table ever in Tum politics. We don't have a candidate. I had to front myself, and by the term table, I was the only table remaining in ground. All those people who we have been organizing and strategizing for the politics are now all over doing other things, and I'm here remaining. I have no table, I have nothing. I'm just a candidate. So I called Onyango Huru, who remember we had worked with in Infinite Alliance, and I managed to convince the table to allow their candidate or his candidate Chili Chris to be part of the government. I told him because he's the current chairman of Kasatu, that is the best strategy I can advise anyone who wants to run. Start with the community executive, create rapport, create friendship, because you need them for the community endorsement for you to be part of an alliance. So I called Onyango Huru. I knew I wanted to try, but I just I suggested it because, bro, I would want to try this again one more time, but we are going for the position of the president. Onyango Huru said, it's fine, there's no problem. Onyango Huru called, of course, Chili Chris. That's how my table now was part of Chili Chris and I. So I'm a strategist and Chili, and I'm still a candidate. It was quite a tough experience ever. So for Chili Chris identified that there's a strong candidate somewhere who is coming up. This candidate is Olo. Olo was the delegate for Beast during the Infinite Alliance that I just mentioned. And also there is another strong candidate who somehow people are saying they have a good friendship with Beast. And you, of course, from the history and from this video, I can tell you, I and Beast, we have never worked closely that I can talk to his or I can work with his candidate. So obviously we settled on Olo. So it was me and Olo to form something so that we now look for other alliances. I met Olo, Chili Chris and his team and Olo's team. We agreed Olo was to go for the position of Sports and Entertainment Secretary and I was to go for the position of President. I didn't know, for the first time I was played in tomb politics, because by the time I was realizing Olo was already taken by someone called Carlos Fungo, and Carlos Fungo is a ruthless focused person. But at some point in Dawa politics, by the way, there was a time I had agreed with Carlos that I was to be his presidential candidate. But due to some unavoidable circumstances, we didn't agree, and that is how I and Carlos stopped talking. Now, on my talking with Olo, I later realized, because I decided to let him down on our agreement that we had agreed, he went behind or silently to Olo, and they agreed that Olo was to be the president, or Olo was to be the presidential candidate. On the point of realizing this, my guys, there was no alliance left. All alliances are full. Olo is the president. Xavier is the Sports and Entertainment Secretary. Although at that time he was still telling people, he was even posting posters of president, but I knew everything that was going on. There was already an alliance that was existing. This alliance was between the Luos, Kambas, who later came in Dawa, and the Kalenjins. Now, somehow, these guys disagreed. They just decided that these Kambas are playing us. There is some games that is going on. So Carlos decided, I told you he's a ruthless focused person. He decided to leave that alliance. Imagine that alliance that is already full. To fill an alliance is a struggle. But he decided to break up this alliance, and that's how there was an end to an alliance between Igbos and Kambas. So I don't know if Kambas regret this move up to date, I don't know. But Carlos was the one who initiated the move. They left, and Carlos was thinking something of 3 Igbos and a Kalenjin coming in and some lawyers. So for me, because I put my hopes fully on Olo, because I knew there's no way I could take Xavier from Beast, and Beast being the president, he wouldn't want his candidate to be under another president. He would want his candidate to be the president. So there's no way I could take Xavier. That was a block. So I decided, let me form my own. So I called Mohammed, who was later becoming the SG of Dawa Alliance. I called Moha, I called Temo, who is now the current SG of the current government. I called Songa, who won against us when we were doing Invisible Alliance. So I, Temo, Moha, and Songa decided to form an alliance. Songa was genuine on this journey, by the way. So what broke between me and Songa, I introduced Samom factor. Now, this is why I introduced Samom. Remember, my politics is largely based all through the years. My politics is largely based on strategies. But Songa is a strategist, but is also a physical guy. He understands physical politics and also strategy. But I wanted to add a mixture of strategy physically and a strategist who thinks on the table. But I didn't know because remember when Songa won, Samomo was part of that government, and that is how these guys. I didn't know they don't agree. I didn't know they have beef from their previous government. So from the moment I introduced Samomo on the table to work with Songa so that we form something, that is where that table broke up, man. Because I broke up with Songa, Songa's candidate was Temo. That's how Temo also left with Songa, looking for another alliance. Now, remember I told you I'm still with Moha and Samomo. So alliance, you need 8 people. I only have 2 people. So I called the Gikuyus. They agreed to give me Vivian Wangui and the current accommodation secretary, who we had agreed will be part of my government. Also, we looked for Kisis, where Samoa had brought them, and we became 8. Now, we were going to sign this alliance, and I was so happy, by the way. Finally, there's an alliance that is fully 8, and I'm the president. Because if you are not the president, that alliance is quite a struggle. So, we go to town. If in a table, you give a position to a candidate coming from a strong community, and they just agree, no, you are being played. Okay, so I knew from the beginning of that table that someone is playing someone, and it came true because already when Carlos left with Olo and Xavier, Canvas went and re-strategized, and the first person they signed after they signed Nesta and Gigi was Vivian Wangui. So Vivian Wangui, they sent as a spy to my alliance to just know what I'm planning, but Vivian Wangui had already signed. And the only person I was remaining with, Moha, Kumbe had already also made an agreement with Canvas. So Canvas have 2 candidates in my alliance without even me realizing. And to make matters worse, Samomo, who is my strategist, was also seen in a meeting with this Canvas. So I'm all alone, man. I'm in a table of 9 people, fully against me, because everyone has an alliance. Everyone is a strategy. Everyone is a strategy to another alliance, and they just want to delay me because. And even at this point, I know you all know, in any time I become a presidential candidate of an alliance, there is no way you can beat me into politics. But that one is, we will talk about it later in this video. So after realizing all this table is playing me, man, hey, I had to pull cards now. I realized that these campers, they are not yet full, by the way. There are some candidates that are still looking for. I was eyeing for president, and as a presidential candidate, you have to own a table. If you're going to another table that is already almost full, of course, if it's almost full, they are already having a presidential candidate. I also had, because Olo and Xavier were going on the opposite direction, of course, Carlos has a presidential candidate in the head that he is thinking of. So there's no way I could go to that alliance to bargain for president, and there's no way I could also go to Canvas to bargain for president. And because Olo and Xavier had gone to the opposite direction, I knew very well that I am going for the Canvas. And because I thought that they could strategize, because there's already a low president on this side, they could just agree with me to give me that presidential position, because I believed in the crowd I could pull, and I believed in my strategies that could help lead us, give us a win. So I went bargained for the day one. We didn't agree on the position. The position they were offering was too low for me, for the candidature experience and the strategies that I had, that we could help us win that election. I went again, talk with Carlos, because I told you there is nowhere we had disagreed with this guy. It was just that a little disagreement where I didn't fulfill part of the agreement, and later just dismissed him, and that was the disagreement. I went back to him, We couldn't agree, but because he said there's no way I'm letting you go, bro. We started this journey together, and I feel so bad. Maybe somehow part of the betrayals you received from Olo came from my end. So I'm going to push for 3 Luo candidates to form this alliance. And that was my strategy from the beginning. Even when I was speaking to you as my preferred presidential candidate, I had 2 other Luos in mind. But when you left, I took Olo and Xavier, who we are now strategizing with. Now, I want to be honest with you. Already we have a presidential candidate here. Already we have a sports entertainment candidate here. Lawyers are also eyeing for the SG and Gikuyus. Because there is a Gikuyu over there, we have to give them a good position. I'm going to offer you a position. I know it's too low for you, knowing who you are and everything, but you have just to be part of alliance. I don't want you to be outside this politics. Considering your journey up to this point, I'm offering you to be the 3rd Luo in this alliance as the accommodation secretary. Yo, I didn't see that coming because, bro, I'm a presidential candidate. I just left bargaining with the campus that there's no way I can go to that position. The same accommodation secretary I'm being offered in Dawa is the same accommodation secretary I'm being offered in a Luos. The person who introduced me into active politics, Jacqueline Sotiato. So I decided to make him a call, and I also made a call to Ndaka. Okay, so Ndaka said I can easily convince Dawa to accommodate you, but I can't promise a position. Position they will have to agree among themselves. Same as Otiato. Okay, we can try our best because forming an alliance at this point when election is almost next week is quite hard. So we'll have to try and look for another thing or look for another position. But I can advise you, the direction of 3 Luos, my brother, you are going to be washed. You have washed people all through this politics, and now it's your turn. You are going to be washed. There's no way that alliance can accommodate 3 Luos. If they want lawyers in that alliance, they want Kikuyus and everything. So obviously, considering his advice, man, I decided that alliance is a scam. There's no way I'm going to be part of the 3rd Luo. So we talked again with the Kinanzioko, and we had agreed that I'm going to be part of the Dawa alliance as the accommodation secretary. Such a heartbreaking moment in my life. Remember, I have been pushing Infinite Alliance, Invisible Alliance, Liberal Alliance, all through for me to be the presidential candidate in future for the alliance that the government have pushed will help me build. Now, this is the final one that I'm trying, but I couldn't get myself a presidential position because now the struggle is I don't have a table. I'm alone. I can't bargain for myself. So it was really a tough journey, but I had to accept joining the Dawa Alliance. Now, Dawa Alliance comprised of Kalenjis as the president and academic secretary, Muslim Moha, who I thought we were with together, only for him to go and bargain for himself as the Secretary General. Vivian Wangui, who came into the alliance for signing, he was already a deputy president. Gigi, a sports and entertainment secretary. Nesta, who was the finance secretary, and Irene from Kwale. That was one of the strongest alliance I have ever seen in Tumu. Strong candidates, hard-working candidates, the synergy, the push, and everything. You could just tell these are people who really know what they want, and they really are up to their game. Now, of course, even if it was you see a whole alliance formed from all strong communities, Luos, Kambas, Kalenjins, of course you'll be intimidated. But now, if you are intimidated, you just sell back the fear. That was a good strategy from that team, by the way. And I expected that, considering that Songa was also now opposite me, opposite my alliance. Carlos was part of my alliance. Beast was part of opposite my alliance. Like those guys, the strategists on that table, I knew there's no way they could just go in this politics easily. They either have it or have it, and that is what spirit I love about the 3 individuals. So It was chaos, just to intimidate us. But we really fought a very big fight in Technical University of Mombasa, and mostly the fight was largely on the Luo section that was supporting Nyogilo. So that's what's telling you, in 5 years, my position, or the person Nyogilo, has been a definition of most of this politics. Where Nyogilo is, where this is happening, I have been the one starting TUMSA elections conversations. And because now I'm on the opposite end, with almost 80% of Kasatu being on the other end, becoming the strongest alliance of Dawa and becoming one of the strongest candidates who could command crowd, was one of the biggest blessings I got from Dawa. And that if you want Dawa to be part of this conversation, please just comment below. We could invite them later in the video. But that experience marks my 5 years in campus politics. And unfortunately, although who we had started with this fifth politics became the president and savior, who I didn't approach that much, because I told you the person behind him became the sports entertainment secretary. The Nadine, who is now accommodation secretary, we were to sign with the previous alliance, became the accommodation secretary. And Temo, who was supposed to be my SG, because of the disagreement of Samomo and Songa, they couldn't make it, became the SG. So that's all my political journey. If there's anything that I have missed, comment down below so that I can answer all your questions in the comment section. Also, please don't forget to like, subscribe. And to the final question, am I vying again? No, because remember, all my strategies was to be a presidential candidate. I've been pushing for Liberal Alliance as the sports and entertainment secretary, so that next time I become the president. It didn't make it. I pushed for Infinite, so that when they form the government, I become the presidential candidate of that alliance. It didn't make. I pushed for Invisible and Infinite for the same reason. I also came for Dawa. I settled for accommodation because I knew when Dawa now comes in, I will be the president. So unless fate brings the presidential candidate on my hands, that one I'm sure I'm going to win that election. That is when I will be part of TUMSA election. But if it's this gambling, it's enough of the gambles. I'm no longer gambling. Of course, that marks the end of my life, season 1, episode 2. And see you next time for episode 3. Bye and God bless you.